Welcome everyone to Wrasslin Raw!
You're listening to Wrasslin Raw, the podcast that takes you back to when the World Wrestling Federation developed a little bit of an attitude. Thank you for joining us. You're here with Ryan Arico.
In the 1 week since we've been absent, there's one thing that would not die.
Oh my
the
God.
Voices.
Joe Giamateo.
Sit down, Diesel. Diesel, sit down.
I'm the one and only Jason Bartlett. We're going to examine WWE history, one episode of Raw at a time. But first, word is, Joseph, that there were some messages or comments made on Instagram regarding our WrestleMania 12 episode. Do you want to fill us in on that?
Yeah, we got a message on Instagram from Our Wrestling Podcast, which is OUR, Our Wrestling Podcast. They have a couple members of their team there that were at WrestleMania 12 live.
Ooh,
Jeez.
wow.
My first question to them was, how did the backlot brawl come across to the live crowd? And they said it was actually pretty good because they brought a bunch of televisions down to ringside so that like a lot of the people on the floor could see. And obviously they had it up on the big Titantron.
Proto-Titantron.
Yeah, and then there was like a big screen at the arenas have that big screen for like the hockey scores
Right.
and basketball scores. Mm-hmm. So they had a screen up there too. So sounds like it came across pretty well for a live crowd. And they also mentioned that the Warrior got the biggest pop of the night.
Jeez.
He clearly had the shortest match of the night as well. But yeah, that was pretty cool. Those guys were there. Check out their podcast. They do kind of a mix of classic and current wrestling content, but mostly classic stuff. Kind of like what we do, just recapping a lot of pay-per-views. And then they also do these legacy episodes, which are episodes that focus on one talent. So I listened to one on Diamond Dallas Page. There's another one on Sherry Martel, Bam Bam Bigelow.
Nice.
They just did one on Paul Orndorff, who just passed away recently. So yeah, a lot of good stuff there.
Yeah, very cool.
The biggest question I have, and maybe they addressed this, maybe not, but where were they and how far away, like in relation to the timekeeper getting kicked in the face with the sweet chin music? Did they get any sweat backsplash?
No, they didn't. They were not in the splash zone.
Did they see the stretcher being taken?
The Ahmed Johnson baby oil splash zone.
And I also wonder, so you said that for the backlot stuff, they wheeled out all these televisions and stuff for them to watch it, but I wonder how the OJ film with the White Broncos stuff came across when they would cut to that footage.
They mentioned that they said when they did the Bronco chase scene, the crowd was laughing. So like they obviously knew what was going on. Like they could see everything. So yeah, pretty interesting.
Huh. Well, very cool. Yeah, check those guys out. And now I can't think of anything other than stretchers and maybe other things coming down to the ring. But we'll get to that. In this episode of Wrasslin Raw, we're going to be talking about the Raw that aired on April 8th, 1996. This Raw was recorded at the Orange Pavilion in San Bernardino, California, and features Vince McMahon and Mr. Perfect on commentary. Are you guys ready?
I'm ready.
Ready.
All right, then, let's get into it. There's no preamble to this episode. Coming out of the intro, we find out that Mr. Perfect is going to be on commentary tonight, and then we go straight into our first match of the night. Vader defeats Yokozuna via referee's discretion in 3 minutes and 44 seconds. Yokozuna is out first, and as he waits in the ring, he is already out of breath in the corner. A very unfortunate close-up of Yoko there. As the bell rings, we kick it off with a brief shoving match that quickly gets stiff as Vader and then Yoko fucking belt each other for real. These gigantic masses of humanity just clobber each other upside the head. A sequence starts where Yoko gives Vader a couple good whacks on the head, followed up by a whip it to the ropes into a Samoan drop. All of this was barely worked by Vader, as the Mastodon telegraphed every step. I was not digging this. The clothesline that Vader follows up with, however, was stiff as hell yet again, looked great. Yoko sold it very well. Vader continues to dominate as he pummels Yoko in the corner. Then Yoko gains control, drops a big leg that doesn't look very impressive. And here is where I noticed that Mr. Fuji was waving a big American flag. I am not sure what the hell the deal is there. Maybe Yoko got his citizenship. Maybe that's where he learned how to speak English so well. It's during the citizenship application process. As Yoko attempts to splash Vader in the corner, Vader dodges, and as Yoko is laid out with his leg on the rope, Vader executes a targeted splash onto Yoko's leg. And man, I know this was a worked spot, and I don't know how they did this, but you could clearly hear something cracking and breaking, followed by Yokozuna freaking the fuck out, screaming in pain. And this is where the referee immediately calls the match, calling for the bell and for assistance as Vader continues to assault that leg. As many people come in to try to help Yoko, Yoko audibly yells, "Ah, shit!" as they bring the stretcher out. I can't help but think that Yoko is double wide and not fitting on that stretcher. And then wouldn't you know it, we cut the commercial and come back to find out that they had to take Yokozuna out on a fucking forklift. The cameras follow Yokozuna and the forklift as they move through the backstage area. And that is where we're going to end this segment. There's a lot to talk about here, but I think I'd like to just start it off with, I think Yoko deserves a fucking Slammy Award for how well he was selling this injury. I mean, this was Academy Award-winning shit. Joe, what did you think of this match and its aftermath?
Well, I first thought to myself, I kind of wish Vader was not immediately feuding with someone like Yoko. I kind of wish that they would have just had him come in and just destroy some smaller guys first and kind of work his way up the card there. But I don't know. I thought it was a pretty good job. I thought Vader had to carry the match quite a bit for the most of it. But you're right. The stuff at the end, the aftermath with Yoko was, Yokozuna did a great job at selling all of this. I was thinking to myself, okay, I wonder if this is another trip to Fat Camp, and that's why they're doing this. And I read in the Observer that that's what this is. This is just straight, this is fat shaming. Like, we got to get this guy, we got to get a fucking forklift, and you listen to Bruce Pritchard talk about this, like now it's like, He'll say, we tried to get him help, we did everything we could. But you also had to fat shame him on fucking live TV or, on national TV.
Well, they tried to make a spectacle of him.
Yeah. Like, this is not necessary. Just have him go to the weight loss clinic without having to write him off TV. Like, it's not like they had to do this. It's not like he's Shawn Michaels, the champion. He's just a guy on the roster that is kind of in a feud, but not really. I mean, it's not like you couldn't have moved on.
Or even keep the ending, just leave out the whole forklift and, angle of it.
Right. Yeah, the forklift is just, that's kind of like, to me, that's like taking a little jab, like, oh yeah, we're going to send you to this thing, but we're also going to fat shame you.
Right. I thought this match, when it started out, it was, I guess if they're going to send him away to Fat Camp, the very first thing that I thought of in this match is kind of fitting, because it's him leaning up against the ropes after just walking down the ramp and he's winded. I guess, they're not making a bad decision here, but once Vader does come in and they get started, I didn't think they worked too bad together. Vader was definitely the one carrying through most of this match, but those slaps that they started off with, Bartlett, you mentioned, they weren't holding back on them. I mean, they were really laying it into each other, and you could hear it. That was enjoyable to watch, and I thought Yoko pulled off some decent moves. I mean, he had his help from Vader, but to be able to land a Samoa drop on Vader on such a large target like that, it's going to take a little bit of help. He also landed his famous side slam. Later on, his cousin, The Rock, will make famous, calling it the Rock Bottom. That's one of Yoko's favorite moves, but I don't know if you guys noticed this. For some reason, Vince referred to that as a great suplex.
Yes, I did notice that. Yep.
I was scratching my head over that. But I thought kind of like picking up from WrestleMania, having these two enormous guys go at each other for a decent amount of time. I mean, there wasn't a ton of time wasting going on in this match. It was pretty much action packed. And I thought the ending up until the forklift part was pretty good. As you mentioned, Yoko's acting was fantastic. He did a great job after Vader came down on his leg of selling this leg injury. The way he was rolling around and screaming, I mean, it seemed like he got injured, On paper, this is probably a match you would scoff at, but I thought in the end it was actually pretty entertaining and did its job well. I can't help but also, I mean, Joe, you said the Observer said he is going off to fat camp here, but that was a thought that came to my head. I was like, this is clearly a goodbye to Yoko for some time.
Yeah.
You're showing that his leg at least is broken, if not more damage than that. So it's getting him out of the way for right now. But I thought as far as the storyline goes, they did a pretty good job with it.
Yeah, I do agree with that. And I just wanted to touch on something that you said, Joe. Why take him out this way? It has to be fat shaming. Because we had somebody that was arguably a bigger star, Razor Ramon, drop off the face of the fucking planet with nary a word said about it, and everybody's fine with that. At the time, I mean, he was in a championship scene, him and Goldust. Mm-hmm. But the equivalent version of that would be is once Scott Hall submitted his notice, they immediately booked him in an angle where he shows up shit faced and falling down all over himself, and they
shamed him.
Yeah, they have to drag him out on a stretcher.
They're doing it to make Vader look like this lunatic, like they've been doing, but have him do it to Jake Roberts. Tell Jake Roberts to take some time off, Jake, go do some cardio, go get in shape,
My God.
In their defense, though, Yoko could use with some fat camp right now.
Yeah. Absolutely.
He's well over 600 pounds at this point.
I mean, we all know that's what ended up killing him.
Yeah.
But this is just straight fat shaming with the forklift and the whole
it's
thing.
Disgraceful.
It's like, my God.
Disgraceful. Yeah.
It's almost Hawk Legion of Doom booking territory, almost Jeff Hardy booking territory.
Yeah.
Or Scott Hall down the road.
Yeah. The only other thing that jumped out to me here is, Ryan, you mentioned Vince calling the Rock Bottom a suplex, and it almost makes me wonder if, because we have Mr. Perfect there, if maybe Vince was just trying to say something to sound cool in front of
to
Mr.
not
Perfect.
say maneuver.
And I just picture fucking Kurt Hennig just looking at him and just dramatically rolling his eyes as Vince says that,
A suplex?
Okay. Well, let's move it along here. We haven't heard the last of that. Something that Kurt Hennig probably was rolling his eyes about quite a bit. He's back! He is the ultimate warrior. And he's here. He's in the ring. He's down for an interview with Vince. He is tweaking out. He gets pyro. He gets everything. And you have to, and this is one of the reasons why I said that about Mr. Perfect before, you have to love Mr. Perfect asking just, what do people see in this guy? and being completely genuine when he says it. Like, I really don't think he was trying to just be the heel color commentator. I think he was genuinely saying, what the hell do people see in this guy? And as Vince asks where the Warrior has been the past 3 years, the gibberish begins. I don't, if you guys want to throw any quotes out from what he said here, go at it.
I already did at the beginning.
I barely understood that Warrior basically said, yes, I was gone, but I am back now, except it took
the voices.
Yeah, there was a lot of that kind of shit thrown in there.
The comic book.
According to the Warrior, what it seems like it all amounts to is that the people wanted the Warrior to return, and so here he is. Vince follows this up by name-dropping the WWF's new generation, that thing we've been focusing on as our main strategy, while simultaneously bringing back old names and faces, and simultaneously making fun of old names and faces. How do we think the Ultimate Warrior will fare against them? And then it's just more gibberish in answer. I'm assuming the Warrior is confident. That's the aura that he gave off there. Finally, in a very interesting twist, Marlena and Goldust come out. And here, Vince informs us that the Ultimate Warrior is going to be getting a shot at the Intercontinental title?
Of course, why not?
Later on in the month, which was a big what the fuck from me, dog. But in the ring, Goldust lays out a fantastically creepy, yet cleverly researched and presented promo, which is kind of the hallmark of Goldust at this time. Regardless of where we sit on how creepy or blatantly sexually aggressive he gets, his promos have been very clever. And, he's throwing out movie quotes that are also simultaneously appropriate for the angle that he's booked in. And like, for example, here he fucking quotes The Warriors, that great movie, The Warrior responds to Goldust's promo with just gesticulating and snorting, and then with, and I quote, "I don't give a shit," with shit bleeped out. Warrior says he's then going to kick Goldust's ass. He clotheslines Goldust, and then his music hits as Vince sells complete and utter shock in the background. Goldust does an amazing job of tripping and falling and scurrying out of the entryway while the Warrior goes back to his high-energy hijinks in the ring. Still to come, we're going to have an arm wrestling contest between Ahmed Johnson and the British Bulldog, and right after that we get some footage of Yokozuna still on that wooden pallet as the forklift is moving him towards the ambulance, but then out of nowhere, Vader, with a steel chair, arrives and starts wailing on Yokozuna's splinted, broken leg, knocking Yoko off the forklift, repeatedly assaulting the injured limb. Yoko just continues to sell this immaculately. And that's the end of this segment, guys. So I have to ask, Joe, what did you think about this program we're putting together between the Ultimate Warrior and Goldust? But then also that additional carnage we saw outside between Vader and Yoko.
Well, for the Warrior interview itself, it's a shame that Jim Hellwig was such a buffoon, because these crowds are exploding. I mean, they are really going crazy for him. He looks like he's been injecting steroids directly into his traps. His shoulders are enormous. And he's in really good shape. He looks like he, trimmed down from his earlier days. I think this interview, it was gibberish, but that's the Ultimate Warrior. I think that this interview was really well done and played to the Warrior's strengths. And then Goldust comes out, so it changes up a little bit. It's almost like he transformed into Jim Hellwig to become homophobic. like he did at his college speeches or whatever. Whatever it was. But did you notice his voice, the inflection in his voice sort of changed? He sort of went from this weird Warrior voice to just his regular voice. So it was kind of funny and entertaining. But Goldust was just awesome here. He comes in, he does his, his creepy promo. Warrior yells at him, beats him up, and then he goes, like you said, he was slipping and falling and stuff, which was hilarious. And Marlena was with him too, which she always does a great job. She comes out in like this pantsuit, that probably the least revealing clothing that she's worn so far, and still looks so great and just does her part so well. You know, she's like leading Goldust to the back as he's humiliated. So yeah, just really, really great job by Goldust here.
You know, we start off with the Ultimate Warrior. He runs down to the ring and he gives, you know, us at home and the crowd there at the arena everything we want to see out of the Ultimate Warrior. You know, he's pumping the ropes, he's got the energy, and everyone's on their feet. Vince got the attraction he wants here. I mean, the pop that the Ultimate Warrior got here was enormous. Unfortunately, this is an interview and he had to open his mouth. And it didn't make sense. None of it. Everything that came out of his mouth was just nonsensical. And the way he delivers it, I can understand why, as a kid, I enjoyed it maybe. Because as a kid, all that you got from it was the energy and the excitement out of it. And when he wasn't making sense, you just kind of blamed yourself. You figured, I'm not understanding what he's saying right now. Yeah. But as an adult, you watch it and you say, no, he's not making any fucking sense. But I thought this was saved by Goldust. When Marlena and Goldust come down, the entire mood and feeling of this promo changed. At first, the Warrior, he didn't really, I don't think he came off very good. So Goldust throws out some really good lines. He's quoting stuff from the movie The Warriors. And then the Ultimate Warrior's response to it is to pound his chest like a gorilla. And Goldust's face is classic. He looks at him like everyone else is thinking, just what the fuck was that? The look that he gives to the camera. But I got to give him the Warrior credit, though. I thought he ended this segment pretty strong. After that, he comes back and, basically says he's going to kick Goldust's ass and gives him a good-looking clothesline. The crowd pops. So I thought in all this worked. It started off a little bit shaky, but once Goldust came out and helped things come along, I thought it found its footing and was a pretty effective promo.
No word on the additional carnage outside with Vader and Yoko.
Obviously, we're continuing this forklift angle with Yoko. We're showing it slowly even the forklift is laboring, trying to wheel him back to the ambulance. But I thought the camera work here was really good. Every time Vader was going in for a chair shot, it was just a little bit off so that you couldn't see him pulling the shots and not actually hitting his foot. So, it just continued with this storyline. It's a bit of a filler segment, but not bad.
Yeah, it's Monday Night Fat Shaming. It's just an extension of what happened earlier. But I guess it's cool to see because it's something that, we didn't get a lot of the backstage beatdowns in these early days. So that's always good to see.
Yeah, a lot of the way that this was shot kind of reminded me of the way WCW started doing the NWO stuff backstage with the attacks.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll move it along here and go now into our next match. Hunter Hearst Helmsley defeats Duke the Dumpster Droese by pinfall in 4 minutes and 37 seconds. Just real quick, I'm going to throw this out to anybody that wants to answer. Whenever we started this in 1993, watching the 1993 episodes, did you ever expect that by April of 96, Duke the fucking Dumpster Droese would still be here?
I had no clue.
Yeah, that's tough to predict there. But he was gone for a long time, too.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
At least off Raw.
Mm-hmm. They did the new repackaging of him with the haircut and stuff, but that was months ago.
Yeah.
All right. Well, in the match, the Dumpster comes in hot here as Hunter's valet barely has any time to get out of the ring. Hunter does a great job of working and selling these poorly executed moves from the dumpster, while the dumpster himself is just incapable of doing anything at all that looks legitimate. If anything, the dumpster comes across as a whiny bitch to me, honestly. He spends quite a bit of time yelling at Hunter and being generally loud and obnoxious.
That's his new gimmick.
Yeah, and I feel that we need to point out that there is a difference between a talent being vocal in the ring and, playing to the crowd, playing against his opponent, that kind of thing, and then just being loud and obnoxious. The things that he's screaming they were just barely filler comments, and it didn't come across as anything engaging in the least bit. But then, in a truly unfortunate move, we get a split-screen view of Mark Marrow cutting a promo, and man, did he look like Superfly Little Richard in this. The promo was short and to the point, but the execution I did not know how to describe it other than it felt incredibly fake and overproduced. In the match, nothing of note has been happening other than Hunter supporting the dumpster. We break for commercial and come back in time to see the dumpster reversing the pedigree into a slingshot to the corner. And I know I've said it a couple times here already, but it can't be overstated how great of a worker Hunter is here in this match. The things he's doing to sell all of this are phenomenal. Unfortunately, what's not phenomenal is Duke the Dumpster Droese. Duke wastes a ton of time yelling that it's time to take out the trash. Unsurprisingly, nobody really seems to give a shit there in the arena.
He's not talking about himself?
Yeah, right. If only. At the last minute, though, Hunter is able to reverse one of the dumpster's whips into a pedigree, and there we get the pin and the 3 count to end the match. So this begs the question, Ryan, were you just as excited to see Duke the Dumpster in action as I was?
Oh, you know it. I was just so happy. I mean, this is it's an episode where we also are going to see the King wrestle, which is a rarity anymore. So, him and Duke had that big feud back about 1.5, 2 years ago. So just, something of note. But, I mean, it starts off with Dumpster. He comes in with his new short hair and skull cap beanie thing he's got going on. And he tries to start fast and hard, taking it to Hunter, but he's not a good wrestler. I mean, that's kind of what it comes down to. Hunter is doing his best job of selling here. When he gets tossed to the outside, he's thrown into the stairs. He's doing his best. We've mentioned it before with Hunter, where he borderlines this almost cartoonish character where he was stumbling around, but he's bordering going overboard with it. And I think he does a really good job with it. He doesn't quite get into the territory where it's too ridiculous that it takes you out of it. So I am going to give Hunter credit here. But Dumpster did not do much to get any credit whatsoever during this. But Vince was really happy to give out credit to the WWF because he mentioned that the pre-show on the preview channel, I guess that's the tag team finish that we didn't get to see last week. It was the highest rated preview channel show ever. And I think to myself, how many shows does the preview channel have? I remember the preview channel, and they didn't really have programming.
It beat out the scrolling TV guide square.
Yeah, it beat out Jeopardy at 7 o'clock for that time slot. So Vince was really proud of it, though. I mean, him and Mr. Perfect were really talking it up. Both that and Sonny, they were really, really happy to talk about Sonny winning a Slammy Award for Best Buns. That was something they had to bring up again. And then split screen with the Madman here. It was thankfully short. I mean, very short, but the promo, like you said, Bartlett, came off very fake. The way that when he finished his promo, the lights slowly dimmed to black. It looked like a theater play or something.
Yeah.
It was really bad, which is fitting with this match with Dumpster. I don't want to take away from Hunter. I thought he did everything he could, but if we don't see Dumpster again until the gimmick battle royale, I will be happy.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. Duke the Dumpster is just useless, but Hunter Hearst Helmsley really puts on a good show here with him. Hunter Hearst Helmsley is one of the guys that we, like, a short period of time that we've seen him, he's still a young guy, but man, he's probably if there was a Slammy Award for like most improved, not that he was ever bad, but you can just see the quick improvement with this guy since we first saw him. He's moving around in the ring and selling like Shawn Michaels, Ric Flair style selling. Like he's like flying over the ropes and stuff. I mean, it's really good shit.
And from the moment he showed up, I can't think of a single thing I would blame on him in a match.
Yeah, I mean, but he just to me, he just keeps getting better. And when it's like, you think, well, could he even get any better, But he is, he's not one of those guys that we see during this time. I don't know like who to compare it to, but a lot of times we see guys during this area that just, they try to get all their shit in, like they do the same shit over and over, but he doesn't do that. Even with shit wrestlers like Duke the Dumpster, he still does different things and comes up with a clever way to apply the pedigree all the time. It's not always the same. So I enjoy his matches right now. I think they're awesome. The gimmick is getting a little hokey, but I love watching his matches right now.
Yeah, completely agreed on all of that. I really don't have too much to add to this other than Duke the Dumpster truly is garbage. Moving along, trash. We're going to see some highlights of the deranged Mankind's attack on The Undertaker. It's great to see that we're keeping that front and center. But then, as we are coming back to the ring, we're about to see the British Bulldog take on Ahmed Johnson in an arm wrestling match. And for the record, my sources that I use online whenever I'm doing my prep work for these episodes listed this as a match on the match card. I did not. So we're treating this like a segment here. I'm certainly not going to do a play-by-play on the fucking arm wrestling contest. That's not to say that it was not entertaining, though, but we will get to
You're
that.
A hack.
I've never claimed to be anything but. First, though, backstage, we see that they've finally managed to get the forklift to the ambulance to get Yokozuna in there. Yoko is still screaming and wailing, just still selling the ever-loving shit out of this. And, to be fair, it's about as real as it could be because he's had a broken leg for the past 20 minutes. That nobody has done anything to treat.
Except wrap it in that misery-looking splint.
That cardboard splint.
And then beat it with a steel chair a few times, let's not forget. But still, I can speak from personal experience that a forklift does not have a suspension system to speak of. So that was probably a pretty bumpy fucking ride all the way across the arena there. Back to the arm wrestling thing. Just in case you were wondering, yes, Diana Smith, wife of the British Bulldog, is there.
Oh, good.
I didn't know if I'd be able to continue.
Show the close-up.
Show the close-up and get the footage of her saying the only phrase she knows how to fucking say, "Come on, Davey."
Come on, Davey.
Go back. I wish I would have said this before so that I would have a record of seeing this. Every time they put her on camera, somehow she knows she's getting that close up, and every time she says, "Come on, Davey."
Same thing she says in bed.
Oh, no. No. I wasn't fucking there. Anyway.
She's saying, "The voices."
And then Ahmed is to the ring. The people that are already there are the British Bulldog, Owen Hart, and Jim Cornette. And after Ahmed is to the ring, I was really tempted to treat this as a match, but I'm glad I didn't, because this really, for me at least, became an entertainment segment. There was an actual contest. Whether the outcome was fixed or not, I'm sure we don't know. But whenever I say an entertainment segment, I mean that the genius that is Owen Hart just took this to the next level for me. And I'm an Owen Hart fanboy, so I'm not very... this is not surprising. Owen grabs the microphone from Vince McMahon and is just talking up the Bulldog. When we're finally sitting down to try to get started with the arm wrestling, Owen keeps interrupting to point out what's not fair. And at one point, Owen just loudly points out that it's not fair because Ahmed Johnson is covered in baby oil.
The old Al Snow argument.
He can't have all that grease and slime on him.
He's not lying.
He's not.
Someone's gonna get hurt.
Owen just keeps interrupting this process. I was loving every second of it. Finally, the referee has had enough and tries to kick Owen out. Both the Bulldog and Ahmed finally lock up and get going. And Mr. Perfect's commentary during all of this was perfect, by the way. And of course, Ahmed Johnson wins the arm wrestling contest, but the Bulldog doesn't like that too much, and so beats Ahmed Johnson with a chair. He sets up the folding table in the corner, beats Ahmed a few more times for good measure, and then ends up whipping Ahmed into the table in the corner. And it appears that the table wasn't gimmicked enough, or really at all, as it doesn't even bend when Ahmed hits it, and Ahmed leaves a very visible oily smear across the formica surface of the table. It was glistening in the lights.
It was like a bowling lane. You could have...
Yes, that's exactly right. Mr. Perfect points out that there is a smear across the wood because, of course, Mr. Perfect is going to fucking point that out. Ahmed gets another toss into the table, and then to top things off, the Bulldog drops the table onto Ahmed. That looked kinda rough. I don't think Ahmed got hurt, but man, that was fucking close. Officials finally come down and hit the ring, but that doesn't stop old Davey from dropping the whole fucking table on Ahmed again, just for good measure, before leaving the ring. So, guys, in my opinion, this was a lot more entertaining than I thought it was going to be when we first heard that there was going to be arm wrestling. Ryan, what did you think?
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you here, Bartlett. This was definitely more entertaining than what I was expecting. Most of that was because of Owen Hart. The way it started out with Owen Hart just continuously bitching and moaning and whining about every single stipulation in this match to the ref was just it was fantastic storytelling as far as I'm concerned. Whoever told Owen to go out there and do this, or if it was just what he thought needed to be done here, whatever, it was genius, because by far the best part of this entire segment was Owen Hart. When he brought up the too much oil, I lost it. I lost it laughing about him having on too much oil and that it wasn't fake. And then the way that Johnson just grabbed the back of the ref's shirt and used it like a rag, like the fucking piece of trash that he thought he was. And then, finally the ref had enough and he kicks Owen out like he's a disgruntled ump at a baseball game. But from there, it got a little bit more serious. They get down to the arm wrestling match. They have a little bit of back and forth, and then Johnson screams and comes out on top as he powers through. And then they quickly show an extremely disappointed Diana Smith, a shot of her just kind of with her head down going, "Oh, no, Davey boy." And then that was the signal to the Bulldog to attack Johnson. He beats him with a chair and then starts on this impenetrable table. He sends Ahmed through it. He slingshots him at it twice. Not a single dent in this fucking table. I don't think they cut a single bar or anything on it, because then Davey Boy just continues to try and beat Ahmed with this table. No matter what he does, the table stands tall. that was a little bit, I don't know if it was disappointing, but it kind of took you out of the fact that no one was put through this table. But I thought in all, it was a pretty decent way to start this feud between these two guys. I'm just, a little bit worried for the Bulldog's safety going up against Ahmed Johnson.
Yeah, I thought it was hilarious that we've been talking with seeing Ahmed Johnson these past several months about how he wears entirely too much baby oil. And then both Owen and Mr. Perfect are going on about how much oil this guy has on his body just for an arm wrestling match.
Yeah.
Full gear, both guys in full wrestling gear for an arm wrestling match. Pretty funny. The first thing I thought of was, they maybe could have got a better table and chairs for this. Like, they had the shittiest looking banquet table and steel folding chairs that I've ever seen.
It would have made at least a little bit of sense if the table was gimmicked.
Yeah. Well, and now, later, that's what I thought at first, but then later I thought, oh, well, that's why they have a shitty table, because it's going to be covered in baby oil. So why mess up a good one? Because I feel like if they did this now, they would have the nice black tablecloth over it with the WWE logo and all that shit.
Or possibly an official arm wrestling stand.
Yeah,
thing. Yeah.
Where they're standing and not sitting.
Yeah, like over the top.
The other thing is just to remind people of how enormous Ahmed Johnson is. His arms were almost twice the size of the British Bulldogs. When they were locked up, I just couldn't stop staring at that. I was like, Jesus, this guy has enormous arms, because Davey Boy Smith is no skinny wimp. That's for sure.
Yeah.
He's no Buddy Landell. I agree, Ryan. I think this sets up a pretty good feud between two guys that are pretty much, they're just two big muscle-bound freaks.
Yeah, two powerhouses.
Yeah, and I think that sets up a pretty good feud for them.
Yeah, I don't have too much to add here. I do feel a little bit of concern about what a Bulldog Ahmed Johnson program is going to look like. Meathead versus Meathead, and one of them being extremely dangerous on top of it. I don't know. I hope I'm pleasantly surprised, but I'm still just a teensy bit apprehensive.
Yeah, I'm really hoping it doesn't turn into a Diesel leg match version 2.
Yeah. And man, that table, I'm surprised that we couldn't see through it by the time they were done. It was like that episode of The Simpsons where Homer's gaining weight.
Window to success.
Yeah. Next week on Monday Night Raw, Savio Vega is going to be taking on Goldust for the Intercontinental title. I am looking forward to that. And then Diesel is coming down the entryway to join commentary as we go into our final match of the night. Shawn Michaels defeats Jerry the King Lawler by pinfall in 8 minutes and 44 seconds to retain the World Wrestling Federation Championship. You want to talk special? Here comes the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels! I added the sound of an orgasm at the end of that, but it didn't take much to figure out that was what was really going on in the ring here. That whole thing that we got last week about being a classy champion, well, that's right out the fucking window as we go back to strip dancing and enjoying every minute of it. As we get into the match and things get going, so far, Diesel really wasn't that bad at commentary. This is very early on. I had initially assumed that it was going to be the Drizzling Shits. But the flip side here, while Diesel is doing much better at commentary than I thought he would, the match in the ring was a lot less than I thought it would be. 3 minutes in, and there's only been one tie-up. The rest of the time has been spent with the competitors circling each other and posturing. When we finally do get back to the tie-up, it's so we can do a split screen and show Diesel talking. And then again, just not much action, more playing to the crowd. And then again, split screen to show video of Diesel attacking Shawn how many weeks or months ago, while nothing substantial is happening in the ring. We break to commercial and come back to Shawn Michaels getting worked on by Lawler with some kind of foreign object in the King's palm. And honestly, this is where I just kind of started to tune out. I didn't stop watching this, but this match, in my personal opinion, was doing virtually nothing to maintain my attention. Things did get a little interesting when Shawn started an unofficial stare down with Diesel and just taking a quick, casual moment to hit Lawler with the sweet chin music as though it was nothing. That gets him the pin in the 3 count, this whole time maintaining eye contact with Diesel. Diesel does stand up and gets ready to climb into the ring, and then he does. Diesel and Shawn end up going at it, the action not looking too shabby. Mr. Perfect gives Diesel a hand out of nowhere. This kind of was surprising. I didn't know that Mr. Perfect would be getting this involved in things. Old Kurt picks up and then tosses the championship belt to Diesel. Diesel nails Shawn Michaels with it. And Vince gives us a great Vince-ism here with what kind of a 7-foot monster would do something like that? Maybe a monster, Vince. I don't know. Do we not know what the definition of monster is? Anyway, just nitpicking. I'm being a nitpicking dickbag on that one. And that's it. We fade to black on a view of Shawn Michaels laying unconscious in the ring with the belt draped over him. And I want to throw this out here at the top of our discussion on this. I was really disappointed by this match. I know this was a vehicle to perpetuate the story between Michaels and Diesel. That was obvious as soon as it was announced last week that Diesel would be at commentary during the match. But, on the flip side of that, you always hear about how Michaels and Lawler were 2 of the all-time best wrestlers. And I have to admit that I was hoping to see 2 all-time greats going at it in the ring, at least just putting maybe a half of an ass into it. But instead, all I got was filler material to lead up to the real story. Joe, please talk me off the ledge on this. What did you think about this match and the way that Raw ended?
Well, I didn't really have high expectations because we've seen enough of Jerry Lawler I'm guessing he's in his late 40s here. I mean, it's never great. I think that he was probably a great wrestler, 10 to 15 years before this, for sure. Yeah, the match wasn't very good. Certainly was purely to set up this Diesel and Shawn Michaels, to continue their little feud they have going. And when Diesel comes out on commentary, I immediately thought of the time that Bret Hart came out to do commentary when Diesel had a match back a few months ago, and now it's kind of reversing that role a little bit. But, I mean, the match was just a pretty standard Shawn Michaels match, Shawn Michaels on Raw match, nothing too exciting. The King pulls out brass knucks, so you get the same shit from him all the time. I did think to myself, why does Shawn, when Shawn just all of a sudden starts paying attention to Diesel and kind of taunting him a little bit, I was thinking why did they wait this long? And then I did
the whole time.
Yeah, but I did like that he just gave Lawler a sweet chin music like it was nothing, because that made Lawler look like a fool, because that's really what he's good for right now. And with Mr. Perfect getting involved, I'm wondering if he's going to maybe be in Diesel's corner at In Your House. I get this whole heel and babyface thing that they do with commentators and that stuff, but these random alliances with guys from commentary is just a little confusing. We had Jerry Lawler teaming up with Isaac Yankem before, and now he doesn't. It's just so weird. I guess I need to just kind of look past that, but that's kind of what I was thinking of right away.
Like both you, I don't think I was really looking for much to come out of this match, but I think in the end I was still disappointed. We start off, Diesel, or Big D, makes his way down to the commentary table, and he's wearing the Shawn Michaels shirt. And Vince asks him why, and I thought it was kind of interesting, his response. He said, well, I'm part of the clique.
Yeah.
Kind of throwing, I guess that would be some meta jokes in there into his talk with Vince. So that was kind of interesting. Then I hoped the ring work would begin, but it never really started. This entire match was boring. The pattern of the entire thing was we'll land one or two moves. Lawler will then pull one of his typical antics, and then we'll waste a couple minutes, go to split screen, show Diesel, come back, and then do a couple more moves. And by the end of it, I'm thinking to myself, like, I just hate what they're doing with Lawler anymore. And it's been a while. They've been doing this shit with him for a while, but we know that, like you said, Joe, 10, 15 years ago, back in Memphis, Lawler was the fucking man. Now they have him crawling on all fours, groveling at the feet of the ref to have him stop the match. And anytime we see him, it's the same bullshit anymore. It's him playing the court jester.
Yeah.
There's no actual wrestling to him anymore, even though everyone, or at least anyone in the know, knows he's a fantastic wrestler, but they just have him playing the fool.
He's become a parody of himself.
Yes, he's become a parody of himself, and it's sad. At the end here, Michaels gets all of his spots in, and he wins it, of course, but I can't help but be disappointed. There was no real botches in this match. There was nothing I could point to say that was bad, but this was probably the least entertaining Shawn Michaels match I've seen in a very long time.
Yeah, and I just want to clarify, I did not expect this to be a 5-star banger by any means.
No.
What I did expect was a half an ass from Michaels, a half an ass from Lawler to hopefully make one whole ass of a match. That's it. Oh, you know what? Another thing that bothered me about this that I wanted to ask you guys about. Do you think that it mattered at all that this was a championship match?
No, not in the least.
So why was it then?
Your guess is as good as mine, right?
Yeah. It kind of just sat in the back of my head the whole time. Like,
we knew Lawler wasn't winning it.
Yeah, I get it that this is all just keeping the story moving for Shawn and Diesel, which is perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that.
I didn't have any problem with the way it ended.
Yeah.
The way Diesel came in and all of the action at the end, I didn't really talk about it much in my breakdown, but that was perfectly fine. It was this match that was terrible.
Yeah. Well, I think we said last week, whenever they announced that this match was coming up, what the hell has Jerry Lawler done to earn a fucking title shot?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. As I said, our episode's over, so we're going to take it on over now to highlights and lowlights. Joe, why don't you go first?
I did not think this was a great episode of Raw compared to a lot of the other ones that we've seen recently. For me, the highlight was Hunter Hearst Helmsley's performance because Duke the Dumpster is a horrible wrestler, and Hunter Hearst Helmsley was able to keep me engaged in the match. For my low light, Bartlett, I kind of stayed quiet when you just asked about Jerry Lawler getting a title shot. And my low light is this. It's kind of being a nitpicking dickbag, but I don't understand a lot of the stuff that's going on with guys getting title shots. Why is Diesel getting a title shot? He just lost to The Undertaker at WrestleMania. What did he do other than that he was the champ for a year 4 months ago? Like, what did he do to earn that?
And if you know the background information, he's leaving the company.
Well, yeah, so the whole reason for doing this is because he wants to have a match with his buddy before he leaves.
But who gives a fuck about having a match with his buddy?
Vince, because Shawn wants it.
Right.
Yeah. Most likely.
Yeah. Yep.
But you have Jerry Lawler. You have Jerry Lawler getting a title shot. We heard about Savio Vega getting an Intercontinental Championship match next week against Goldust. What did he do? He lost to Stone Cold Steve Austin at WrestleMania. Like,
if anyone, Stone Cold deserves the shot, right?
None of this shit is making sense. It just seems very lazy to me, and it's just not doing well for any sort of long-term storytelling.
For my highlight, Joe, I agree. This was one of the weaker Raws we've seen in a number of weeks now. But I think for a highlight, I'm going to go with the Vader Yokozuna match. You know, I thought these guys kind of picked up where they left off from WrestleMania and worked shockingly well together. And outside of the fat shaming with the forklift, I thought this was a decent story to propel Vader in his monster role. Low light, unlike last week where we had few low lights to pick from, we had a bit of a wider selection this week. But I ended up going with this final match with Shawn Michaels and Jerry Lawler. It was boring and uneventful. And, you know, it's pretty shocking to have a boring match out of Shawn Michaels, because do I need to bring up that the King Kong Bundy match again? But he couldn't do it here with Lawler. This was a stinker all around.
Yeah, that's a fantastic point. We're going to share lowlights on this one. The Michaels-Lawler match is my lowlight for every reason that you just listed, but man, that is a great point. Shawn Michaels got a great match out of King Kong Bundy. Why the fuck couldn't he have a good match with Jerry Lawler? You're blowing my mind with that right now. My highlight, this was very hard for me, and I do agree with both of you that not as good of an episode as we've been getting used to the past couple weeks. We've been spoiled the past few weeks, but with that being said, my highlight is going to be a two-way tie between Owen Hart during the arm wrestling match and Yokozuna selling the living shit out of the broken leg. Two extremely, extremely entertaining segments that had me popping my ass off. So I would love to give my highlight to some actual wrestling, but in this case tonight we're going to have to go with the entertainment aspect of things. All right. Well, Joseph, do you have any contemporary wrestling news from on and around April 8th, 1996 for us?
Yes, I do. Direct from the Wrestling Observer. I have some false information that was reported by Dave Meltzer. He noted that Shane McMahon was the referee for the arm wrestling match.
No.
And it was definitely not Shane.
Definitely not.
He either didn't watch it and got false information, or maybe they had another arm wrestling match. I don't know.
On the preview channel.
Yes, the free-for-all. Dave Meltzer says he commented on the Warriors interview. He said that it made no sense and that Goldust had to come out to carry the segment, which I'd say we agree with that. The first segment of the Backlot Brawl at WrestleMania 12 was actually taped about a month ago. Roddy Piper legitimately broke his hand delivering a stiff punch to Goldust.
Punched him for real.
Yeah.
Piper has been wearing a cast and had to remove it to do the live segment in the ring. The WWF plan was to have a Bret Hart-Shawn Michaels rematch for SummerSlam and suggested a ladder match, but Bret Hart has no intention of returning at any time in the foreseeable future, particularly to put Shawn Michaels over again. Speaking of Bret Hart, he was running a kayfabe column in the Calgary Sun during this time, and he used the most recent column to throw jabs at Shawn Michaels and the Ultimate Warrior. Bret Hart mentioned that he does not like Shawn Michaels being a role model for small children and said that somebody should ask why Michaels was beaten up in Syracuse, and suggested it was because a lot of the time Shawn Michaels behaves like a jerk. On the Warrior, Hart said the Warrior received a tremendous response at WrestleMania, but he was more tired after his match than Bret was after going 62 minutes. Bret Hart added that the Warrior will fade fast, especially if he has not learned any more than throwing clotheslines and shaking the ropes. But hey, he looks great.
I love Bret Hart.
And that is all.
Is there anyone he doesn't fucking shit talk?
I know, right?
Anyone that's not him is a piece of fucking trash. And that's in his shoot interviews. That's not kayfabe.
All right. Thank you, Joseph. Illuminating as always. And that's it, folks. We are done with this one. I want to thank you again for joining us. If you like what we're doing here and want to connect with us, you can email us at WRASSLINRAW. Just add @gmail.com to the end of that to submit questions or comments. Check us out on social media and on every podcast subscription platform. While you're there, don't forget to follow and subscribe to get every episode of Wrasslin Raw coming to you every week. Give us a 5-star review and let your friends know how much cooler they would be if they became Rawheads like you and me. Next week on Wrasslin Raw, we're going to take a look at the Raw that aired on April 15th, 1996. That's right, Tax Day. But we're not going to have the Tax Man. With matches featuring Leif Cassidy, Bart Gunn, and many more. So, for Joe and Ryan, I'm Jason, and this has been Wrasslin Raw.